Welcome to this OCR Cambridge Technicals Level 3 Information Technology video. This is Unit 21, Web Design and Prototyping. We're looking at Criteria Pass 5, P5, and it's conduct testing of the prototype. Now the reason why we're using the word prototype here is because the website does not have to be fully functional or working 100%. So for example, if you have an element or a feature or an interactive part of the website, and it's kind of working, or it's has a placeholder, that's fine. Obviously the majority of your website, 75 to 80%, should be functional, but this is a prototype to show the client so they can then give feedback on improvements and changes that they might suggest for the future. So this is why it's called conducting testing of the prototype website. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what the syllabus or the user guide says about the P5. We're then going to break that down into some smaller kind of simple sentences which will help you understand the testing, and then we'll end by looking at some student work. So in the portfolio guide, the project guide, it says P5, conduct testing of the prototype. And this is why once we've had a look through this, I'm going to explain to you in more detail what you have to do, because conduct testing of the prototype doesn't really give you much to go on. If we scroll down to the further guidance, it kind of gives you a little bit more. The learners are required to test the prototype. Okay, they need to ensure that all elements of the prototype work correctly, including hyperlinks, interactive elements, response design as per their plan. The evidence should be in the form of a test plan. So you've got to do a test plan, and we'll look at that in a minute. You've got to test the hyperlinks, interactive features, and response design as well. That means, you know, if you load it up on a iPad, does the website render correctly compared to if you load it on a desktop computer? Does it render correctly? If we scroll up to the content section, you can see there's a little bit more about testing. And this is on page 4. It gives you a kind of checklist of what you should be testing. But obviously, if you haven't used JavaScript or Flash, I mean Flash is redundant now, it's HTML5, you won't be able to test that. If you haven't used a database, again, you won't be able to test those elements. So 3.3 there doesn't really give you that much information to go on. It's very, very generic. So let's have a look at a kind of break down this into the specific areas that you need to cover, and how you can meet the evidence or meet the criteria for P5. So what I've done here is I've taken the testing requirements and I've just broken them down into 6 stages there, so you can easily see what you have to test. So the first thing is you have to test all of those 6 areas, and I'll talk about what they are in a bit more detail. You also have to use what's called a test plan, and you can probably see on the left hand side there is a test plan. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's have a quick look through though the 6 areas that you need to test. So first of all, functionality or functional testing. This is your hyperlinks and your navigation. For example, when you press a hyperlink from one page to another, does it go there? When you press a button to take you to the next page, does it go there? Interactive features. Now each of your websites might be different, so therefore you want to be thinking about what are the interactive features you have on your website. Videos, sound, animation, games, the shopping cart, etc. are all ways that the user interacts with your website, and you need to test those. In order to cover the testing to a good standard, if you've got something like a video, you might just think that you're testing that you've got a video. However, what I recommend you do is you break it down into the different features of having a video. For example, test that the video plays, test that the video loads in a reasonable time, test that the sound can be heard, test that you can rewind the video, test that if you press to move the video forward, let's say you forward the video or drag the navigation bar at the bottom on the video, does it load up fast enough? So don't fall into the habit of just saying, oh, I'm testing, I've got sound, yes it plays. If you're testing sound, check, does the sound play with a high enough quality? If you're testing the video, does it play smoothly? Does it load quick enough? Can you use the controls to forward, pause, rewind, etc.? SPAG is spelling, punctuation and grammar. So you need to test each page to make sure you've got the spellings, punctuation, grammar correct. Browser testing. This is where you test that each of the pages runs on different devices. So what I recommend you do here is you get yourself 3 devices, maybe a mobile phone, tablet, and a desktop computer. And what you do is you test that the pages load correctly on each of those 3 devices. You can take screenshots and do comparison. You can write or kind of annotate any changes that change. Sorry, let me explain it again. You can annotate any of the changes on the different devices that are rendered on the website. So for example, if you're looking at your website on a desktop computer and you then change and look at it on a phone, obviously the phone is a lot smaller. The content, the font, the images should shrink down in size. You can do screenshots to show that. Number 5 is end user testing. This is where you are testing what the user thinks. I recommend you get 4 or 5 people to feedback on good, negative, improvement features of your website. And finally, comparison with the original requirements. So go back to your P2 where you wrote about what you were going to create and start testing. Have you got 8 pages? Does it advertise the shop? Does it have a shop on it? Is it accessible by everybody? Is the font readable? Have you used the house styles? And so on. I recommend you do this on 6 separate documents, 1 for each of them. So functional testing is 1 document, interactive features another document, and so on. And then it's a case of just working through them. They're fairly easy to test, but they obviously take a little while to complete. Let's have a look at this test plan. So you must use a test plan, and this is an example here of a test plan. So down the left hand side you have the number of the test. Now this is just going to go up in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You then write a description of what the test is. You then write in what or how you're going to test it. You then write what the expected result is, what the actual result is, and then any outcomes or changes that need to be made to it. So you don't actually need this section in the middle, and you may have noticed this is a test plan for testing a database, but it's the same set of headings across the top. Okay. You'll also find that it's probably more helpful to set the orientation of the page to landscape. That way you can get lots of the tests across. If it's portrait, it tends to be quite bunched up. And then basically write down how you're going to test it, what the method is, what you expect the outcome is, then test it, write the outcome there, and then, write the actual result there, and the outcome is basically any changes that need to be made based on what the result was. So this is going to make much more sense when we have a look at a student's example. So here is a P5 from a candidate, from a student, and as you can see, they've used the test plan. And just to kind of talk through this, so here's our test number going down. Functional testing, you can see they've got 17 pages worth of testing. Sorry, 17 tests, not 17 pages worth of testing. They then write in the description of the test. So they're going to test that the social media link works and takes you to the social media page. How do you do this? I click on the social media link. Could be a button, could be a link, could be the icon. What's the expected result? It should load the social media page. What actually happened? It loaded the social media page. So what happened? No action was required. Okay, test passed. They're testing the subscribe button. Okay, testing the subscribe button works. Now, ideally, what I'd like in here, if I was marking this, testing the subscribe button, it loads the subscription form. Just a little bit more detail there. How they're going to do that? They are going to click the subscribe button. What should happen? It should prompt you to enter your email and password. And then what actually happened, it prompts you to enter the email and password, and no action is required. Okay, so that is the functional hyperlinks navigation. Okay, let's then move on to the second one, which is, oh, they've done SPAG there. Okay, they've done them in a slightly different order than I've got them in the PowerPoint, but that's fine. So this is spelling, punctuation and grammar. So page 1 or home page, check through for spelling mistakes, any punctuation issues if listed there, any grammar issues. Remember that some of the spellings, punctuation might be slightly different if you're using a different language, or if you, for example, American English, you might have different spellings. I've come across it where you've got names of products that are obviously made up. They're not real words, so it might be a spelling mistake, but in terms of the validity or the correct spelling of the actual product, then that is correct. So that's spelling and grammar. Now what have we got? So this is probably going to be the interactive testing. Okay. So again, interactive testing, what we're looking at is can the user interact? Okay. Number 2 here, testing if when you enter the email, does it work? So you enter in the email, okay? Should prompt to click the terms, prompts me to tick the box, and it does it. Okay. Can I choose a quantity of items of clothing? How am I going to test it? I'm going to choose the quantity. It should show the quantity of items of clothes selected. Did it do that? No action required. Then we move on to end user testing. So this is where you're going to ask people what they think. You can do it like this, or numbered, or basic evaluation, strengths, weaknesses, improvements. Ask the people who are feeding back what they think about it. Get them to say why as well. Don't just say, oh, you know, it's really good, or it's I don't like that page. Get them to say why. You know, here's a good example. There's too much information which could cause the users to become overwhelmed by all the information, which means they end up getting bored. So what we don't want you to do is just to collect, you know, too much information, because you can't change that. You can't actually edit that. And when you get into the merit criteria, you obviously have to suggest changes. So if you can get your end users who are feeding back to comment on why they think it's good, or why they think it's bad, or why it's an improvement, then that'll make it easy if you do the merit criteria. Now here is the responsive design testing. So what we've got here is the same website on 2 different devices, or 3 different devices, and then you should have a commentary about how it changes. So I think what we've got here is desktop, some type of phone device, tablet device, and then they've talked about why it changes, the fact that it changes to fit in, scales it down. We've got the text there. You can see obviously on the desktop computer, wider monitor, it's filled it in black. Here you've lost the background. And again, they've discussed why that happens. The shop, why that happens. So I'd probably do it to 3 or 4 pages, and that will cover you with enough content to be able to meet that criteria. So I'm going to leave this on the screen. Obviously, those are the 6 areas you're working through. It's not challenging, but there is quite a lot to do in terms of testing. So I will probably start earlier and work through it. You know, kind of 10, 15 tests a day is probably going to be much more enjoyable than having to sit down and do, you know, 200-300 tests a day in one go. As always, if you've got any questions, if anything's not clear, if you need me to explain anything more in detail, drop a comment below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks for watching.